Alright, so today we're going to be talking about all the locations that I worked at as a merchandise cast member on my DCP. So I worked at 26 total locations, which is insane, especially because I was only there for 16 weeks and I only worked for like 13 or 14 of them, because your first 2 weeks you are just moving in and getting like traditions, so you don't really work the first 2 weeks because of like training and everything, and then the last week I pretty much gave away all my shifts so that I could like enjoy the parks for the last time. And then I left like a day early from housing, so I was really only working for like 13 weeks and I had 26 locations, so that's kind of insane. And I also only worked maybe like 30 hours a week. I wasn't working like the full 40 just because of how my schedule rolled out. And then we were all getting pretty much 6 hour shifts. And then like one like 10-hour shift, and I wouldn't want to work 10 hours or 12 hours, so then I would trade for a 6 hour at a different location because other people would want the 12 hours. So you learn a lot when you're there, and so I can talk about trading and like shifts in a different video. And I'm also going to go in depth more about the locations, and all about working in a certain park in other videos, so stay tuned for that. But this is just going to be a general overview of all the locations. My home location was World of Disney, and it was okay, but it wasn't necessarily my thing. I really liked the busyness and I loved it when I was on register or if I was on stocking or expedite or support, but more times than not, about let's say 80% of the time I was on zoning or NLCing, or what other people call like enjoy your shift type of assignment, which is basically you walk around one zone, or like there's 6 different areas of the store, and so you go to like one zone, so you'd go to like princesses and Pixar, and you just circle that zone over and over for 3 hours and talk to guests and try to understand what they want and help them find merchandise that suits their wants. And so that wasn't my favorite thing to do, and so that's why it is ranked so low, and also why part of why I traded a lot. But I also did just want to trade no matter what my location was. I knew going in because this is probably my only time working in the parks. As of now, that's like I'm not planning necessarily to go back to the parks, and at least not in merchandise. So I wanted to just get the opportunity and say I worked in every single park. I worked in as many locations as I could, and I only repeated locations maybe like twice. But it was really hard because a lot of people don't want to work at WAD. I'm gonna talk about that again in a different video. But it was really hard to trade, so you really have to try if you want to trade. I know a lot of my coworkers who wanted to trade weren't able to because you have to be like annoyingly assertive and be like, please trade with me, and a lot of people weren't able to because people don't want to work at WAD, which I don't understand why completely, because there's a really big negative stigma against around WAD, and there shouldn't be, because it's a good place to work. It's definitely for some people. It just wasn't necessarily for me, and I did also want to just try as many places as I could. Anyways, let's just get into it without much further ado. So number 26, and the last place on my list, is the TTC, aka Mickey's Gift Stop. And to be completely honest, it's a little bit biased because this was during love bug season, so my entire shift I was basically just getting attacked by love bugs and running away from them, and it was horrible. So Mickey's Gift Stop, there's a couple different assignments. So the first one, I was just like in the main store, and that was fine, even though by the doors there were a lot of love bugs, and like by the windows, and so we would just be constantly like knocking them down, sweeping them up, knocking them down, sweeping them up. So I don't know, it was a mess, and I could talk again more about this in separate videos, but that was the main reason why I didn't like it. And also it was just not very busy, so it was kind of boring. It was just me standing outside in the heat getting attacked by love bugs for like 6 hours in a row, which is not fun. And then the best thing I probably did was that at one point I had to move wheelchairs from the monorail station all the way back to the parking lot, so I just went back and forth like maybe like 4 or 5 times, and like that was the most interesting thing I did. And also stocking the coolers was fun because they had like a stocking from the back, so I could go into this like closet and like stock from the back, which is great because everywhere else you are supposed to stock like the newest stuff in the back, but they don't have back stocking, so you have to take everything out, put the new ones in, and then put the old ones in front of them. But anyways, also I didn't really like the costume that much, and the break room was kind of far, and it was kind of hard to get there. The costuming, it's really hard to get there. I didn't even get my costume from there. I got the costume from Epcot, which is like not the correct one, but it looked exactly the same, so it passed. But yeah, that was my least favorite. My next least favorite was Trendy, and this is again kind of biased, and I can go into like more stories when I talk about these more in depth, but it was biased in a sense because I just had a bad experience there, and the costume is pretty bad. It's, I think, the worst costume. My least favorite costume that I had. It's just not very flattering, and It's a small shop, so it is a little bit slow. And then you get this assignment that's just like fitting rooms, which is basically just stand in front of the fitting rooms and wait for people to need to use them and unlock them for them. So it's not really my cup of tea, especially given the personal experiences that I had there. And so that's why it's ranked pretty low. Next is strollers slash arrival for Disney Springs. And so this actually wasn't that bad, but it's not merchandise. It's more of a different type of role. It's like part greeting. And basically, when you work in the store sundries and do strollers, that's merchandise, but I wasn't really in sundries like at all very much. I was in there maybe like 30-40 minutes out of a whole like 6.5 hour shift. But most of my job was to stand by either the escalators or stand by other directories and just give people directions. So I don't necessarily dislike that. I think I would have enjoyed it more if it was in the parks, but in Disney Springs, it was a lot of the same questions, and you're just standing like in the heat by yourself for like 6 hours, just being like, turn left, go straight down here, and then go there. And everyone's asking for, where's World of Disney? Where can I eat dinner? Where's the movie theater? Like, it's the same kind of 4 or 5 questions over and over. And it wasn't necessarily bad, because at least it was something a little bit more like challenging, like, oh, you have to know things and like kind of have a bit of knowledge. But it wasn't merchandise, and it wasn't really what I was used to, and I don't really like the heat, but this wasn't bad. It's just other things were better. So that's why this one is pretty low. Then number 23 is Africa and Mombasa, and I think I would have liked this more if it was a different time, a different shift, but overall, Animal Kingdom's really hard to get to, and then like with costuming, it's just a struggle bus, so I didn't pick up at Animal Kingdom very much. But again, I'll talk about this in a different video, but it was my second to last shift, and it was a little bit slow. It was a closing shift, so the last like 2 hours I didn't really have anything to do because they wouldn't really like tell me what to do to help close the shop. I'd be like, oh, do you have an assignment for me? They're like, no, you're good, just keep doing what you're doing, which is like standing there because there were no guests because the store was closed, and like the park was almost closed, but we were still there, but there wasn't like much to do, and like they wouldn't tell me how I could help, so I was like trying to put away stuff, and everyone would be like, no, you don't have to do it, I'll take care of it. So I was just standing there like feeling really useless, and that kind of colored this one badly. But yeah, that was Africa. Now, number 22 is Star Wars Galactic Outpost in Disney Springs. And this, again, it wasn't anything bad that happened, but it was just a slower shop. I did like being able to build lightsabers. That was probably the best part. And honestly, this probably would score higher, but again, the costumes were not great. They're long sleeve shirts, and you can't roll up the sleeves. They're very tight. And then the people who were working that day weren't the friendliest. I also had the closing shift, so I was supposed to be there till like 12:30 when the store closed at 11, but thankfully I got an ER. One of the other cast members saw that I was EHH, and then I had this closing shift, and I was like, well, do I have to stay here for another hour? So then she's like, okay, you can leave. So I got out at 11:30 instead of 12:30, like, which makes a huge difference. And then also the break room was really, really far away, and not the greatest, so that's why this is ranked so low. Then number 21 is Sunset Boulevard. Nothing wrong with this. This was just the first place I ever picked up, so it's kind of colored by me being lost and confused and not really understanding and knowing what goes on, because when you get your assignments, you get like, oh, please go to zone 1, which in WAD, zone 1 means you're walking around talking to guests, but in other places, zone 1 means you're going to the zone 1 register, so you're on register, whereas like in WAD, if you were on register, you'd get, please go to like POS, which is point of sale, like 121 or whatever. So it was just different. I was very, again, lost. I had a big mix-up with my break because I didn't realize Hollywood Studios had only 15-minute breaks instead of 30, and then I didn't clock out because, you know, in other places they're like, oh, you're on your break, so you're just on your break. But this one, I had to go to the computer and click start my break. So I went on break, came back, and then I went to get a new assignment, and it said start your break. And I was like, oh no. So then I didn't know what to do, and all the coordinators, like, I couldn't find anyone. So then I was just like standing there awkwardly for 15 minutes. So I ended up getting like a 30-minute break, and it was big confusing. And again, I had like the closing shift, and like this is the first place I ever picked up, so I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to close at a smaller store because World of Disney closes very differently than other places. So I was like, what do I do? How do I close? And you have to, you know, close the registers, and nobody was really helping me, and you have to restock. And so there was only like 2 other girls closing, and so I was like, what do I do? Help me out. And like they didn't really like want to explain to me. They were just kind of like, you know, do it. So it was difficult, and there's a learning curve with picking up, but At the beginning of my shift, I definitely had some better experiences because I met two really nice cast members who helped me out, and there were people who were very nice and friendly. So I had a really good guest experience, but just the whole newness of it is why it's kind of colored low, and also kind of recency bias that like this is the first thing, so it's like way in the back, whereas I kind of remember the things that were later on in my program a little more. Okay, so anyways, number 20 is World at Disney, and I don't really need to talk much about it because we have before, and we will in the future, I'm sure. So that was my home location. It's 20. It wasn't bad, but other places were just better, or I liked them better. Number 19 was Marketplace Co-op, which is also in Disney Springs, and I think if Zone 1 was my home zone, I would have really enjoyed it, but it wasn't, so there's a big learning curve with Zone 1 because there's so many different aspects. So Zone 1 in Disney Springs includes Trendy and Marketplace Co-op. So Marketplace Co-op, you have to know a lot of specialty information. So I did Wonderground, and then I did Happy Tales, Disney Tales, like the pet store. And they also have like the tech, D-Tech, which is phone cases, the dress shop, and then like other places. So like you have to know specialty things to work there. So I only got Wonderground, which Wonderground I love. It's my favorite store, so I'm super glad I got to work there. But I didn't know that much about like the specialty things you have to know about selling art because it's different than selling other merchandise. So that was a big learning curve, and this is again one of the first places I picked up. And then Happy Tales, I did not really like working there because it's a pet store, but like it's not that busy, and I also don't have any pets, and I've never had any pets, so I was kind of like And then I had some really great coordinators, and then one specific leader who works in Zone 1 who I just, didn't really get good vibes from. So that kind of moved it lower. But again, this wasn't bad. It was a little bit slower, but that's where it is. And then number 18 was going to be Big Top Souvenirs in Magic Kingdom. I did not really like the costume for this one. The break room was like not the best, and it was kind of far away, and I was super lost trying to find it. Like I could not find the store, so I ended up walking into a bunch of places I wasn't supposed to walk into, so it's not that easy to find. But the actual store was okay. In the parks, especially Magic Kingdom, you get a lot more rude guests and a lot of more guests who are kind of like entitled and just not the nicest. So yeah, and it was a long shift. It was kind of neutral, so that's where Big Top is there. Number 17 is ESPN, and this, again, it was super hard to find, and super confusing. It was super far away. The costuming was somewhere I'd never been before, so there was a lot of that going into it, and then it was just very unorganized because it wasn't like the typical ESPN store. It was the ESPN for an event. It was for like the Star Wars half marathon, Run Disney, whatever. So I like walk in, I can't find the place, and then there's so many people, so I walk into like the guest entrance, and I don't know where I'm going. The break room was pretty nice, and the costume was nice. It was normal, but then it was just crazy in there, and like you would just not get an assignment from the computer. You would just have to go up to like their leaders by the tables of registers and go up and be like, hey, can I have an assignment? And like the registers were all full because they had too many people, so then they're like, oh, just stock. But then like you didn't really know where the stock room was or how to stock things, so then like we went to this other room, we got supplies, but then like everything was full, so it was a bit of chaos. But that was only like my first half. So my first half I was like, I want ER, this is like, they don't even need me here, I'm just stocking stuff, like they don't have room for me, I'm stocking stuff that doesn't need to be stocked. But then the second half I got on register, and that was a lot better, so I just got to constant, like it was so busy, it was just a constant like check out, so that was better. And then 16 is going to be Emporium, and 15 is going to be Mouse Gear, and these two are kind of similar, and basically they were like WAD, but you got to be on register the whole time, which is great. So it was basically, I was just on register, and I just was constantly ringing people up. So that's basically it. A Mouse Gear is higher because Epcot I preferred going to. It was a lot closer than MK and a lot easier to get to and get home. And it was also lets out earlier because the thing about closing shifts in the parks is that the parks get like deserted and they turn off lights, and if you're not from there and you don't know how to get back to like the buses, it's a little creepy. So, but Mouse Gear I got out earlier. I got out at like 4 p.m. I had like a 10 to 4 shift, and then Emporium I had like a 6 to like 12:30 shift, and I didn't like know anyone, so if I had to take the bus I wouldn't have gotten home till like 2 a.m. But thankfully someone gave me a ride. But yeah, those two are very similar, and similar to World of Disney. They're like just the big box stores. Okay, now we're moving up to the top half. So these are all places that I pretty much enjoyed. end. Number 14 is going to be Club Cool. So this would be higher, but my first half of the shift was horrible. It was probably the worst shift I ever had, and that was not necessarily their fault. I was just having a bad day and having a lot of personal issues, and I should have really called out, but I didn't because I wanted to work at Club Cool because I love Club Cool. So I went in, and the first thing I was on was mop duty, and like it was just stressful because I came in and I was trying to clock in, but then I had to put my stuff away before I could clock in, and I didn't know where the break room was, and the break room is super far away. It's like across the park, across Future World. It's like at the end of like the old Innoventions building. So I went all the way down there trying to drop in my stuff, and then I was running all the way back trying to clock in. I couldn't figure out where to clock in, and then it was like mop duty, and I was like, okay. So then I was on mop duty, and then every time I would get a new assignment, it just mop duty. And so I just kept mopping the floor, and I'm like, this doesn't seem to be helping. I don't think I'm doing it right. And I was just miserable. I was like, you don't even need me here. You're just having me mop, and the floor is clean. I'm pretty sure the mop is just making it worse because it's just spreading the stickiness around. And so I tried to get an ER, and the leader there was not very nice to me. They said, like, you can't get an ER. There's no way you're getting an ER, because I did have, like, a closing shift that day, but they're like, there's no way you're getting ER. And I was like, well, can I get an ROS, a release of shift, which means, like, it's on your record, but it's basically like if you're not feeling well. And like I was having a really bad day. I was just not in it. I was having a lot of personal things going on, so I was like, I just need to leave. I can't be here just mopping over and over. I'm gonna cry. And then he's like, nope, if you wanted to ROS, you should have just called out. You shouldn't have come in the first place. So I was so upset. And then I went on my first break, and I called my mom, and I just cried for the whole break for like 30 minutes. And I think I went over my break. I was just crying and miserable. But then second half of my shift, I think that leader went home or something. I don't know. But after like talking it out with my mom, I felt better. And then I was on registers, and I was on like the slushy side. So basically all I had to do was just like make slushies for people, and I like that a lot more, just being on registers and getting to make slushies. I was very happy. So I really like that, making slushies and making people's day and getting to give out free slushies to people. That was amazing. And yeah, just like being able to make magic, because it's really rare, at least for merchandise, for all the places that I was at. It's hard to be able to make magic and give away freebies. Like quick service, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, here's food, because like, you know, food goes bad, so they often have to just give away free food before it gets unsellable. Whereas merchandise, you know, the merchandise doesn't go bad. Oh, they don't really give away free merchandise, so being able to just give away free Slurpees and make people's day, like, that was amazing. So yeah, and then cleaning up was, I didn't know what to do, but that was a little bit difficult, but it was hard because I didn't know the closing procedures, and there's a lot of, like, you have to take out all the nozzles and soak them and do all these things, but thankfully the other cast members there told me what to do and helped me out. And then at the end of the day, we called one of the other leaders, and they said we could have free slushies that day, so I was super happy that I got a free slushie for like the day that I had. So that's why, yeah, Club Cool is there. So number 13 is Asia, aka Expedition Everest. And so this day, the first half, again, it wasn't great, but the second half was a lot better. I got to go out on the cart, and you get to do the wilderness explorers, so I love that. Anytime I got to have interactions with guests, especially kids, that were like meaningful and not just like, oh, you got a cool like Woody toy. Like it was an actual like, oh, like let's talk about our love for Disney and like do an activity. Like that made my day. So Asia's 13. Again, it got lower because of Animal Kingdom. And number 12 is Pirates of the Caribbean. This would be much higher, but I had a horrible guest experience at the end of my shift. So I was having a great shift, and you know, the costume's great, you have a theming, it's pretty busy, so you have stuff to do. But then at the end of my shift, horrible guest ruined it. But at least the other cast members were pretty supportive, and a lot of them, you know, helped me feel better and let me, you know, take a minute and collect myself. So that's why Pirates is at number 12. Number 11 is Tatooine, and this would probably be lower than Pirates, but there was no negative experience like scarring it. But Tatooine traders, or Tatooine, I don't know how to say it, is pretty good. You get a lot of Star Wars fans, so at least people are like passionate about something, and I have never seen Star Wars, but I can appreciate people being passionate about a fandom, and building lightsabers is like the best thing ever. And yeah, so that one was there. And then number 10 is Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland is pretty, again, neutral. The theming's not the best. It's just like Tomorrowland, but yeah, it was a pretty chill shift. I was just on register, and I got to, you know, listen to the fireworks and they had free icy pops. So yeah. Number 9 was Gateway Gifts, and this is like the only place besides Trendy and World of Disney that I worked at more than once. So I worked here twice. And yeah, it was pretty chill. It's very, very slow. So there's not many people who go there, especially in the camera center, except for late at night when everyone's buying their photos. But for the most part, it's very slow. So you basically just get to spend a lot of time talking to the other cast member. So it was very much just like getting to know other people and making connections. So yeah, Gateway Gift's pretty nice. And then we go to number 8. So we're at the top end now. Is number 8 was Theater Loop. So Theater Loop is in Hollywood Studios, and it includes the Indie Truck, the Indie Outpost, and Frozen. And so I ended up being at Frozen for like the whole 7 hours, and it was hot as heck. It was miserable in terms of the heat, but it was pretty fun. The people there were pretty nice, so I got basically just to talk to people the whole time and play with like Elsa dolls. And yeah, it was just a pretty good experience. And then number 7 is Hollywood Hills, and so this was, now we're getting into like the actual ones that I liked, that I can say for sure that I had fun. Everything was like pretty neutral, like it is what it is, it's work. So Hollywood Hills I actually really enjoyed, and this is the floor stock, so it was new, and so it might be different by the time other people go do it, but this is because the Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy just opened, so you got to be on register for part of it. So I was on register for the first half of my shift, and I got to do cars, so I got to just like sell Cars merchandise and watch the Cars dance show, which I loved. It was just so much fun, and I love Cars, unlike most people, but so I got to do that, and then I was on floor stock for the rest of the night, which I like floor stock because you get to just be on your own, and so I did like Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror, which are like the 2 big rides, so I got to just floor stock that, and that was pretty chill, pretty fun. And then number 6 is Animation Courtyard floor stock, and this would be higher. So Animation Courtyard was one of my dream locations because I just have a very soft spot for that area, because I love the Disney Junior show. It used to be like live on stage, now it's the dance party, but like it's like a happy show. And then Animation Academy, which is now Launch Bay, but Animation Academy was my favorite thing to do like in the whole parks, and I would just go there and like literally just take the class over and over and over and draw for hours. Like I would spend my whole day at Hollywood Studios just drawing when I would come on vacation, like not even as a cast member. I would just like pay money to just sit there and draw. But that's gone. But I still have a really soft spot for the area, and like Voyage's The Little Mermaid, so I really wanted to work there, but I never got a register shift. But I did get floor stock, and I wore the wrong costume by accident, but I got to wear like the cute Animation Courtyard costume instead of like the floor stock one, and they let me keep it, like let me wear it that day, so I love the costume. And this would probably again be way higher if I knew what I was getting myself into. This was like the second shift I'd ever picked up, and it was floor stock, and I did not know what floor stock was because we don't have it at WAD, and it was crazy because I was stocking like I wasn't just stocking like the stores in the courtyard, I was stocking the entire like park, kind of like there were different like booths that we stocked, so I had to just run all of the park. So thankfully the first half of my shift it was made so much easier because there was another cast member there, and so she basically like I just shadowed her the whole time. Usually you would like do different tasks and cover different parts of the like area, but because I like didn't know what I was doing, I just stuck with her, and so it was a lot of fun. We just got to go all over backstage. We got to take a Pargo and drive around the whole like backstage area and go from place to place and just restock stuff, and so that was really fun. I really loved that, and I got to see so much about backstage, see so much about the whole culture back there and how things run. It was amazing. But then the second half, her shift was over, so then I was on my own, and so that was a little hectic because I was just like didn't know what I was doing. And then by like closing, there wasn't much to do because everything, like all the stands closed down way before like the park does. So I just ended up like talking with some other cast members and then like throwing away trash and like that type of stuff. But yeah, that was a good one. Number 5 is going to be Memento Mori in Haunted Mansion, and actually I feel like this should be lower on my list, but it was a pretty good shift. You get a really good costume. You sell specifically Haunted Mansion merchandise. You don't have to be super peppy. You can just kind of be like normal because of the theming. So I enjoyed that. And then I got to watch the fireworks. So all in all, it was a pretty good shift. It's probably my favorite shift of like just being on register, because like there's not any like special tasks with that. And then I had a really good guest experience at the end with some kids and like showing them all the magic that happens in the shop. So then number 4 is going to be Pin Traders, and this is also in Zone 1, and this is here because I had a pretty good shift, and it's a lot of people who are really passionate about pins who go there, so you get a lot of trading, which pin trading is definitely one of the best aspects of the job, but you get a lot of pin trading. And then I got to give away some pins because I just had good guest experiences, and yeah, you got to do a lot of trivia, a lot of like games to do pins, and then the second half I was on stocking, which stocking pins is so much fun because it's like there's not that much to remember. You just write down like what type of pin it is because everything's a pin, whereas like other places you have to remember like, oh, it's like the Slinky Dog toy, not the headband, and the one that lights up, so I really liked stocking for pin traders at the end. And it was also a morning shift, so it was like 9 to 4, so I was like done super early so I could enjoy the rest of my day. That was probably like the earliest I've ever got let out of a shift. So yeah, and then number 3 is Fantasyland. So I loved Fantasyland. The costume is so cute, and basically the first half of my shift was amazing because I got to pixie dust people, so I got to make so much magic and have so many good guest interactions. The only bad part was the second half of the shift, and it was also a very late shift. It went until like 12:30, and from MK that's pretty late, like to come from MK, because MK takes like an hour or two to get back to the housing if you don't have a car. Yeah, it was a pretty late shift, and like the second half of my shift I was hoping for ER because I wanted to get a ride from my roommate, but I didn't get an ER. And so I was kind of like annoyed by the end, especially because I was doing a lot of busy work. They were just like, stock the coolers for like a whole hour. I'm like, the coolers are all stocked, and also they also had like 6 other people stocking coolers. I was like, I feel a little bit useless, but the first half makes up for it, so that's why it's number 3. Number 2 is Liberty Square, which is Ye Old Christmas Shop, and I really liked this because you got to do a lot of wrapping because there were ornaments. So basically the whole time I was just wrapping, and so that gave me something to do, and I loved, to craft and to like use my hands to like create stuff. So I enjoyed that, and it was just, a chill shift. It was a morning shift again, so I was out by I think 4 or 4:30, and the guests were all like, in a Christmassy mood in, May, because they were all getting Christmas ornaments. Everyone was really nice. There was a rainstorm, so everyone came in, and I got to like talk to people for a long time. So yeah, that was a pretty good shift, and that's number 2. And number 1, my favorite place to work was America, or the American Adventure, and this is an Epcot. And so basically the costume is so cute. Also, I love to work at Epcot because it's the closest to housing, so you get there really quick and you get home really quick at the end of the night, which I love that. And there's like really frequent buses. The buses come like every 10 minutes, so it's great. And then the break room was really nice. It was very clean, very modern. There were like outlets everywhere, plenty of seats. The people were pretty nice. And the best part was that at the end of the night, I got to do KitKat for the last half of my shift, and I loved KitKat. Even though I got a little bit too creative with it, I was drawing a lot of different designs on the postcards, and then one of the other cast members was like, you have to stay with like the generic like Mickey Mouse American flag hello, and I was like, oh, sorry, my bad, I didn't know. So then I went back to that, and it's okay. The guests really appreciated it, because I was like, drawing little Mickey Mouses and little mini bows with like American flags and stuff, and so like the guests really liked it, and the other cast members really liked it too. They were like, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen, but like we weren't supposed to, so I didn't know that. But besides that, they were like still nice about it though, unlike other places that I worked. But yeah, so that's my number 1. So anyways, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about all these locations in other videos. I'm going to like break it down park by park and talk about like my specific experiences and more about them. But that was my ranking of 26 different locations. So again, it really depends on what works for you. If you like busy places, if you like slow places, if you like guest interaction, if you like magical moments, like it just depends what you like. And then I know some people like stocking, so like I liked floor stocking more than I liked like guest interaction, but then I liked registers a lot. So it just depends what you like. And yeah, that's my video. So if you have any questions, leave them down below and I will be sure to get back to you. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and have a magical day. Bye!